Falling in love with your coworker and having a coworker office romance screws up your chances of promotion and pay raise. Full stop. Why and how to fix it? Follow this Sex in the Workplace deck and find out. So, in the first part of this deck, watch here if you've missed it, we've seen the first 3 of the 7 boss problems that make you unpromotable and unpay raisable while, and often after as well, having a romance with a coworker, i.e. an office romance. Those boss problems are: you are not focused on the job, you become a distraction for others, you become an imbalance in the team, a counter equalizer. And today I'm going to give you the examples I've promised you regarding this third tricky boss problem of you becoming an imbalance in the team, a counter equalizer. And if that doesn't convince you that, Molly, you're in danger, girl, and also Murray, you in danger, guy, then I give up. Go ahead and screw up your chances of getting that promotion and pay raise you want. What do I care? But I do care. So this deck is my last-ditch effort to save you from yourself, actually yourselves. As I'm talking to you as a couple, hopefully you're watching this together, but even if not. So let's get to it. There's much to cover. So if you are falling in love with a coworker, or maybe you are already in the midst of a coworker romance at the office, then stay tuned. You must watch this. And if you have a friend who fits this description, be sure to be a good friend by sending this video link, or better yet, the whole deck, to him or her. You will be saving their career. Hi, I'm the Boss Problem Buster, founder of the Pay Raise Commando, a veteran organizational consultant of 24 years, having worked across cultures, industries, and ranks, and a social psychologist with a master's and a bachelor's degrees, both with honors. My team and I train passed over corporate professionals like you to get that pay raise and promotion you are overdue for, so that you can finally kill your Monday blues and bring your inner joy back, which is the part I like best and the goal of this channel. Kill your Monday blues and bring your inner joy back. Now back to the salt mines. So, as we've seen in part 1, teams are very sensitive to cliques forming within them, and a lovey-dovey couple such as yourselves is such a clique, even though you're only 2. Why? Because when you behave as a couple, it tilts the whole group dynamics. Group dynamics are an unspoken power structure with a delicate equilibrium, a balance. And that balance often took months, if not years, to achieve, to settle in just that way. And now the whole thing is out of kilter. It tilts towards the couple. That is you, lovebirds. Why? Because as a couple, you have extra say. Extra say means extra power, because you, as a couple, are a standalone unit of 2 in the midst of everybody else who is single individuals. Moreover, this disruption and destruction to your team's dynamics is worse than had it been any other form of a clique. Why? Because a romantic clique is, by default, a much more intimate and cohesive unit, which exacerbates the whole disruption and triggers a potential disintegration of a team as a whole. And you want me to make you my latex salesman? Now, some of you may say, hey, that's not fair. How come my happiness, my relationship has suddenly become the bad guy and is now responsible for potentially wrecking the whole team? How come? My answer to that is, it is not a matter of whether it is fair or unfair. It is irrelevant. It is just the way it is. This is true for all humans across cultures, times, and situations. Look, the best analogy is a family. Mind you, a team at work and a family are not the same, but some aspects of the relationship within them definitely are. So, think of yourself and your nuclear family, your parents, a sister, a brother. If you have any issues with any of them, you can just talk to them directly and resolve it. The 3 siblings and the 2 parents are a unit, a team. But before all 3 siblings were born, they were just the parents as a couple. They had their own thing, their own equilibrium, their own balance. Who takes out the trash, who does the dishes, how they spend their free time, etc. But then, with each child being added into this established dynamics, everything changes. New dynamics need to form, which is exactly why each birth of each child is a very, on top of very happy, very stressful time in each family unit life. Let's take this analogy one step further. Now, each of your kids are grown, and suppose you need your brother to lend you some money for whatever reason. You go directly to him and ask for it, and since your brother's allegiance is to you as part of his nuclear family, he will probably agree and lend you the money you need. But now, let's take it another step further. Now you're all adults, and each of you is bringing a partner into the mix. Suddenly, the original 5 of you and your parents are becoming 6 and 7 and 8. This is a whole new family. Now, if you want to ask your brother for a loan, he will have to get his wife's consent or even permission, because they have a joint bank account, and it's not just for him to say what they do with the money. And maybe she says no, what then? So your family dynamics have completely shifted once a couple, in the form of your brother and his wife, are introduced to it as a couple. Thus, the whole relationship shifts. In this scenario, you're probably very frustrated that your sister-in-law is a factor in the equation, but she is. It will get even trickier when you marry and when your sister marries. Your wife may not be so close with your sister-in-law, and that will make you and your brother drift apart. So to sum this point up, any clique of any sort, a romantic couple in particular, once introduced to a well-established group of people, whether a family or a team at work, disrupts and destructs the equilibrium of that group to the point of creating a lot of tension there. And to bring it back home as promised, home being the office, the workplace, this tension will give further rise to the other boss problems we've covered, and they will indeed screw up your chances of landing that promotion and pay raise you so want. I've given you a family example, but let's go directly to the workplace. Let me give you 3 workplace examples that I'm sure you can relate to, and that will further convince you that I'm not exaggerating. An office romance with a coworker does change everything within a team, and thus jeopardizes both your careers. Example number 1, lunchtime. Obviously, you always had coworkers you were closer with. Thus, you tended to go out to lunch with those people more than others. So although you didn't necessarily go out to lunch with everybody in your team or department even before you fell in love with your coworker, it is quite safe to assume that it was more or less randomly distributed. It was more utilitarian in nature. So who was free at the same time, who wanted to go to the same restaurant, and who wanted to order in from the same cuisine, and so forth. This gives everybody a comfortable feel, even if totally subconscious, that everybody is more or less a potential lunch mate for you and your now beloved are for them. And so everybody is more or less at the same level sociometrically. Sociometrics being the practice of measuring distances between people of the same group, whom is close with whom is distant from whom, and whom is altogether shunned by all, and doing so to draw conclusions as to the degree of cohesiveness of the group or lack thereof. So this comfortable feel of more or less equal distances between everybody in the team, with some subgroups of closer co-workers, which is very natural. This was the sociometric state of affairs before your office romance with your coworker, so both of you held a benign non-click status in your team or department. You were one of the guys and you were one of the gals. But now it's all different. You go to lunch only with one another to the point of excluding even your closest friends in the team. Do you think they like it? No, they feel abandoned. At the beginning, they were rooting for you and thinking, "Oh, this is so cute." But as time went by, they resented you more and more. Now, do I think you should not go to lunch with your beloved coworker partner just because of your other coworker friends feel abandoned? Not necessarily. This may be a price you're willing to pay, and that's your prerogative. But that is the wrong question, because I'm not here to dispense dating advice, but sex and the workplace advice. And if you keep that focus, as you should, the only pertinent question is, how will this affect your chances of landing that promotion and or pay raise you think you are long overdue for? Does it up your chances or detract from them? Your call, your choice. Just know that if you disregard this, your chances will be detracted from substantially. After all, no one is going to promote, let alone give a pay raise or a bonus to someone who is now disliked by even his or her own friends in the team. Before you may have been disliked only by non-friends, which is also important and potentially telling, but different. And please note, you are being disliked for the wrong reason. It's okay to be not so liked for challenging professional calls you have made. Actually, it may be much more than just okay. It may be the qualifying factor for a leadership position, because you will have proven yourself as one who can make challenging calls despite paying a price in their popularity. So that would have been great for your chances of a promotion and a pay raise, but no. You are currently not so liked by your own friends because you have ditched them. That goes against leadership. How will you invoke loyalty and commitment if people know you will ditch them for a new attraction at any time? Answer, you won't. Therefore, no soup for you. Plus, you are once again screwing yourself in yet another way. Think about it. You lovebirds synchronize your schedules to make this daily doing lunch together possible. This has a domino effect on your other co-workers whenever they are trying to set up a meeting with one of you to work on an assignment you share with them. It's hard enough to find matching open slots as it is, but now that you're a clique, it's even worse. Thus, once again, your ability to do your job, to keep deadlines, and to cooperate with others is diminished. Does this sound conducive to being top of mind for a pay raise or promotion, or even just eligible for one? Example number 2, straight out of your everyday workday, is meetings. What else? You're going into a meeting with the rest of the team, and one of your lovey-dovey couple gets there first. Now, everybody who tries to sit next to you is being shooed off, although very nicely and with a smile, because you're saving that seat for your schmoopy. So what? Now we're calling dibs on seating arrangements in meetings? Really? What's next? A food fight? This is a place of work, guys, not kindergarten. Not to mention, this is an overt preferential treatment towards one of the co-workers, your partner, over all the rest. You're saying to whomever is trying to sit next to you, "I don't want you, I want her," or him, referring to your partner. The first or second co-workers may take it lightly, but then the more people come into the meeting room, the more overt, obvious, and obnoxious it gets. So the meeting cannot start with the same casual, amicable atmosphere as it used to. There is overt and covert resentment towards you, schmoopy at schmoopy. And the third and last workplace example starts right where the second left off. Voting on issues. So now the meeting moves on to voting on whatever it is that you need to decide on, whether it is a majority rules thing or it is just a discussion in which a call must be made. Whereas before you fell in love with your coworker and embarked on your office romance, everybody would weigh in as individuals. Now you lovebirds automatically side with one another. You won't vote against one another even if it were called for matter-of-factly. So the game is de facto rigged. You prefer to side with your schmoopy rather than decide on the merits of each individual issue. How very professional of you. What a promotion and pay raise material that makes you to be. Absolutely. For sure. Indeed, your boss is a witness to all these happenings. He or she is there when you're twisting your schedule and contorting everybody else's on the way, just so that you can go out to lunch with your schmoopy. And your boss is right there when you are shooing everybody off the seat next to you in the meeting. And finally, when you're voting on issues not by merit, as determined by your professional experience and expertise, but by your automatic siding with your coworker lover who may not have any relevant say on the matter, and still you would side with him or her just because this is what couples do, or there's a fight to be had. So your boss is witnessing your overt choice to have your relationship override your professional judgment. How do you think that plays when he or she has to make the call regarding your promotion and or pay raise? I'm talking to both you lovebirds. See how even the most benign everyday work circumstances are affected, and negatively so, by your coworker romance at the office. See how it happens? Nobody's trying to take your happiness away from you, but you do need to be very realistic about the fact that there is a price to pay. No free lunches in life, nor love, nor work. It's just the way it is. And I'm telling you the truth. And a final note on this boss problem number 3 out of 7 of how falling in love with your coworker and having an office romance, some call it a coworker romance, so how it can screw your chances of landing that promotion and pay raise. And the note is this: the more functioning, thus better equilibrium the team has had prior to your blossoming office romance, the more disruptive and destructive it is, because you are messing with a well-established ecosystem that now has to recalibrate, which is tough, both practically. Sometimes it will never reach the previous level of quality, of equilibrium as before, and operationally it will take time and resources, especially managerial ones, which take away your boss's focus from the business at hand. So not a good thing, and yet another thing he or she would not appreciate about you. It's like being the Yoko Ono to the Beatles, if she were part of the band to begin with, but you know what I mean. Or better yet, it's like the mamas and the papas. That's a great double whammy example. Michelle Phillips and John Phillips were married before the group was founded. So while everything we've talked about would still be absolutely relevant, it would not be as problematic, at least in the short run, because it is a built-in part of the dynamics of the group right from the get-go. It is built into the situation. It is baked into the cake. Whereas we're talking about an office romance, a coworker romance, that starts after the team has already formed, and then you fall in love with a coworker. So in your case, there is an element of fundamental change to the previous equilibrium and dynamics, as we've seen. The second whammy of this example gets even more poignant. If it were just Mama Cass falling in love with her groupmate Danny Doherty, then there would be some overt or covert turmoil, but the group would be able to function because he was not into her. Thus, a clique of two, a couple, was not formed, but he was into said Michelle Phillips, who was not only married, but married to the fourth bandmate, said John Phillips, thus creating a complete mess with everybody involved. Pun very much intended. So when these two, Michelle and Danny, cheated on both husband John Phillips and unrequited would-be partner Mama Cass, then once it was found out, it was impossible to put the genie back into the bottle. They kept recording for a while together because they were under contract, but their team disintegration had already started and the writing of their breakup was already on the wall. Lesson of the day: falling in love with your coworker and having an office romance messes everything up. And that's when the affair is blossoming. What happens when it goes sour? Join me next time to find out. And in the meanwhile, forget schmoopy and go back to work. You know I can't help you get that pay raise and promotion if you don't actually do the job.